Welcome to Mystara, the setting filled with mysteries, like what is the Radiance, who is the Master, and where's Winona going to pop up this time? And why in the name of all that is holy is the information on the wise women of the Northern Reaches scattered across the whole book instead of being in a single section? So instead I have to scour the Northern Reaches book repeatedly to get all the information in one place. And that's our subject for today, the wise women, or the vulva. The women tasked with keeping the secrets of the Aether and handing them out when needed. Of course, like everything else dealing with the Northern Reaches, there is a price for this information. I'm Mr. Welch, and if you're lucky, you'll keep your sanity long enough to use said information. To say the Northern Reaches was probably the most problematic of all the gazetteers is a safe bet. Thematically, there's nothing wrong with it. It gives you all the information you need to play a Viking in the known world. It was everything else they tacked on that appears nowhere else and is never touched on again is where the issues lie. Other books, for example, had alternate starting income, but that just gave you a decent boost in starting equipment that the other players would quickly catch up with. The Northern Reaches gave us detailed character creations that locked in skills, gave lots of bonuses, including random stat increases or penalties. And of course there was the dreaded brain rot, which knocked a staggering 6 stat points off your character. It also introduced the comprehensive trait system that was completely ignored by every other gazetteer. And then it gave us the NPC Wise Woman class with a page of explanation that scattered one paragraph at a time across a 96-page gazetteer. The Wise Women, or Vulva as they were called in real life before the game changed their name so it's not a single letter off from a certain bit of anatomy, are the keepers of secret magic passed on from the patron immortals of the Nordic people to protect them in times of needs. In other words, the runes. While a wise woman might not have any runes herself, she has the ability to inscribe them and read them, much like a Godar, the priest of the Aether. The primary difference is that the wise women have been given the gift of prophecy, something that makes them both feared and respected by the people they have sworn to serve, in their own ineffable way. They were originally an NPC-only class, which meant the writers didn't have to make them playable. They had magical abilities and lore that would be forbidden in other lands. When the Nithians took over the Northern Reaches all those years ago, the first thing they did was target the wise women for extinction because they didn't understand the magic. They served the Aether by acting as the voice of the immortals when asked. They're feared by peasants, in great demand by jarls, and that's where any continuity breaks down. As an NPC class, they didn't have to tell you what their hit die was, what their saving throws were, what their Thaco is. You just had to wing it. They can see the future, they can read and inscribe runes, they can brew potions and poisons, and they have a mix of arcane and divine magic. They're described as all hags in one paragraph, living solitary lives on the outskirts of settlements. Then just a few pages later, there are numerous young women secretly living out their lives in cities and towns as wise women, portrayed entirely different from the previous description. Okay, it's time to break out the welding mask and fix this. Wise women are born, not trained. You're either born with the gift of prophecy or you aren't. This gift is only known to manifest in young girls and at a fairly early age. The first sign that a child is going to be a wise woman is her ability to innately read and understand runes, even if she can't read yet. Once a child is identified as having the gift of prophecy, a wise woman will come to collect the child. The parents have no say in the matter, as this is the way of the Aether. A daughter that has the gift is considered both a blessing and a curse for the family. The family will never see the daughter again, but they also know that she's been blessed by the Allfather and will be given the holy secrets revered by their people. The girl will be taken into the wilderness and trained and educated in both knowledge of arcane, divine, and historical matters. She will learn the ways of the wise women, how to brew potions, survive in the wilderness, and otherwise provide for herself. The child will watch her mentor read runes, interpret omens, and mentor those who come before her as part of her training. The training will continue until the mentor believes the child is ready. Failure isn't an option. The mentor will grill the child as much as possible to pass on the information. Once the student is ready, which is a process that will take her into her early adult years, only then is she sent into the world to act as a wise woman. Newly trained wise women typically wander the back roads of the three nations until they find a settlement in need of their services. They will frequently read the runes to find guidance on which way to go. Once they arrive at their destination, they will set up a camp on the outskirts and begin their new life. Despite being lone women wandering the roads, they will not be accosted except to read someone's fortunes. Harming a wise woman is a major taboo in the northern culture. They are easily identified by their trappings, and they can always show their power with a simple spell. Anyone harming a wise woman, especially a new one looking for her permanent home, is a dead man walking. The immortals will alert their clerics and the other wise women if someone harms one unprovoked. The offender will find clerical magic no longer works to heal them. Bad omens follow them everywhere they go, and even those who don't know what the criminal did will react badly to them. For most, the only option is ritual suicide if they aren't hunted down and killed by an angry mob. The suicide doesn't absolve them of the crime, but it removes them from their family's history, sparing them the shame of their relative's crime. The only other option for the offender is to leave the Reaches, where the influence of the Aether doesn't reach as far. Once she's established, the wise woman will often be approached for advice and help in all matters. The most common request is for the wise woman to read the runes to see if a particular endeavor will be favored. Having a wise woman throw runes to see the fate of a wedding or a new business venture is commonplace. Farmers will seek potions for sick animals or other ailments. Even the local jarl will visit to seek guidance on various matters of state. While the wise woman will offer these things for free, it is custom to provide her with anything she needs to survive. Farmers will drop off food as a way of saying thank you. Merchants will provide clothing. A smith might provide her with tools she will need later. These gifts are meant to appease the immortals by helping their agent, in the hopes that the omens will favor them later. Wise women and the Godi do share some tasks, but there are numerous differences between the two. Wise women, first off, do not do healing outside their ability to brew potions. They are mostly about prophecies and advising those that need help. They aren't contacted by the immortals, they just know what the future holds for people. Godi can commune directly with the immortals rather than relying on reading the runes, and while this is far more accurate and informative, it's also quite draining on the cleric. Wise women can influence people and animals through their focus on charm spells, compared to a Godar who is just a normal cleric with a few extra abilities. While Godi are welcomed inside settlements, wise women by tradition live outside them. Wise women serve the immortals, and only the immortals. If Odin doesn't want someone to know their fortune, then the runes come up gibberish. Godi are the go-betweens between mortals and immortals, providing magical assistance when asked. Not all wise women follow this pattern. Some are never led to a settlement. Instead, the runes allow them to lead somewhat normal lives. Some of them even marry, using their powers to subtly guide entire villages towards important decisions. Others take up a life of adventuring, taking a far more active hand in enacting the will of the immortals. These wise women are rare, however, and keep their actual nature a secret. The Reaches are already suspicious of magic, and having an unknown spellcaster living among them can make them hostile to a wise woman if discovered. The biggest reason behind the mistrust of the wise women is ironically their brutal honesty. When reading runes or giving a prophecy, they're incapable of lying. A Jarl that ignores the dire prophecies regarding the outcome of his upcoming great battle will often blame the wise woman for his failings. Eventually, the wise woman of an area will become an outcast, with few people visiting because of fear of learning something about their future they don't want to know. Farmers will still leave food on the boundary of her stead, and the quality of the donated goods will drop sharply. The wise woman will eventually have to rely on her ability to take care of herself, then rely on the kindness of the people she advises. They can predict the future accurately without the help of runes. Runes just hint at the most probable outcomes. They're not 100% accurate. But prophecies are greatly feared because they come straight from the immortals, and those hearing them can be driven mad. The prophecies are immortal-level magic that pass through a living vessel in the form of the wise woman, and such foretellings are not for the ears of mere mortals. Still, if a powerful noble or rich merchant wants to hear an accurate prophecy, they will pay a wise woman greatly to hear it. Unlike a simple rune reading, prophecies come with a cost, both in material goods and insanity for its target. Only the strongest wills can hear their fate laid out before them without going mad. Because of this, only the truly desperate or greedy will seek out a wise woman for this information. There is a legend of a Sodefjord Jarl that needed to know how to defeat a much more powerful foe coming to conquer his land. The information proved accurate and the Jarldom was saved, but the Jarl was reduced to a cackling madman sitting on his throne repeating the prophecy over and over again, years after its relevance had long since passed. His sacrifice is still sung about in the mead halls of the Reaches, about the dangers of dealing with the wise women and the cost of protecting your people. They are typically depicted as old crones that scare away children. While it is true that a majority of wise women are elderly, most younger wise women aren't recognized as one because of their stereotype. A young wise woman might be considered a herbalist by some villages, until her ability for prophecy and sorcery comes to light, and her reputation slowly changes over the years as a mad woman touched by the immortals, regardless of her mental state. As people begin to fear her, she will be forced to live in squalor as the offers to help dry up. Then the weight of her abilities and her loneliness start taking a toll on her mind as she becomes a bit off, cementing the stereotype. Wise women are primarily there to be used as plot devices. Find a reference to a particular bit of ancient lore? You can be assured that a wise woman will know the meaning. They are educated in the history of their people, possessing knowledge of the ancient kings and jarls that even the most learned skalds don't know. If you need an exposition dump, the wise woman is in the wings practicing her lines. They can be a quick spot to stop up on potions or other herbal remedies if necessary. Of course, there's also the off chance that she might be related to one of the characters. So the ostracized young woman serving an ungrateful town could raise eyebrows when her twin brother shows up to check up on his sister that was taken from him when they were very young. Wise women are mostly plot hooks, but they are very specific plot hooks. The rules for wise women in Beckme are an absolute mess. They're just a spell list, only going to level 6 spells, but there's no spell chart to tell you how many spells they get per level. We don't know what armor they can use, what weapons, what saving throw chart they use. Nothing useful. They get cleric spells, mage spells, and custom spells just for runic magic. The attack charts they use isn't mentioned. We don't have any idea what their hit die is either. I welded most of this information from their scattered mentions in their own book, along with some speculation from the vaults. If you want to play one in 5th edition, you just have to use the Mystara Player's Guide. If you want to play one in BECMI, you have to write the class yourself. Next week, we are looking at planar familiars. When immortals like your wizards so much, they give you a super-powered turbo ultra familiar. But until then, remember, you roll the dice, you take your chance.